This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 75. Members of the university will get that joke, I hope. But with trading, because it's just human emotion at the end of the day, humans are humans, emotions are emotions. So
this is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host,
who enjoys the company of Canadians for breakfast, don't you know, eh?
Clay Trader.
Now, I promise this is not planned. I promise this was not scripted. But when we do the fun facts, we just kind of send them off. And then IT Nate, who's the producer, he just lets me know beforehand. So I know, which one's going to be matched up. And this one, as you heard, is perfect. And the reason for that is we have a special episode. And one of these Canadians that I was referring to in the fun fact that I had breakfast with is on today's show. And we are just going to sit around and talk. There is no agenda other than a couple talking points to get us started. But it is episode 75. And in the world of our community, we're at kind of a grandma number here. So we thought we'd go back and just do what we do and kind of just talk about whatever. And I realize I'm being kind of ambiguous here, but I don't know I have no idea what we're talking about. We're just going to hang out. It was popular back, I think, the 2-year anniversary special. We had some past members back, but Hooch is here and he was on episode 2. So Hooch always gets credit in my book because first, he was one of the first 300 members of the community. But second, when Ches and I had this crazy idea to do a podcast, Hooch was like, okay, episode 2, this could be a total failure. There was no, history. So he still came on and, now 73 episodes later, we're still going. So Hooch, he's always on my good side. He can pretty much break any rule in the community and I will let it slide just because he holds lots of leverage and it's Hooch. He's kind of a household name. But to go back to the fun fact, yes, when we were in Pittsburgh, Hooch showed up in attendance. So I have met him now in person. And on Saturday, we were all eating breakfast and I sat down to join him and Mustang, another fellow Canadian. And yeah, we had a good little breakfast. So Canadians do make good conversation, good breakfast. What word am I looking for, Ches? Compatriots?
Banter.
Yeah, you can have, they're good to have around. So if you ever see a Canadian and it's breakfast time, hey, go sit down with them. It's a good conversation.
And try to ignore most of Clay's maple syrup jokes because he'll throw those around, especially a lot during breakfast.
But let's get serious. How can you not have a maple syrup joke when you're eating breakfast with a Canadian? Answer me that, Ches.
It's too cliche, Clay. It's too cliche. You gotta slide it in at different times.
Well, how would you have approached? So here you have presented a problem, but you have not yet presented a solution. So what is not cliche? Because you have just said I'm cliche. So what would your?
Well, the safe answer would be not to make maple syrup jokes, but that's just not in our vocabulary. So sorry, Hooch. Sorry, other fellow Canadian members.
That was actually very wise. You basically just said, well, not taking a trade is still a trade, whereas your talking point is not saying a maple is still a talking point. You don't have to say anything at all.
True.
So you just owned on me.
I'm wise beyond my years, apparently.
Yeah. I think Ches, I think there's some kids on your lawn. You better go yell at them.
Yeah, I'll go get them.
All right. Well, like I said, we have Hooch here, and he was one of the people at breakfast. So Hooch, how you doing, man?
Good day, eh?
Okay. Sorry.
Out for a rip there, bud?
Yeah. So I need to go back and just relive easily top probably 3 memory of Pittsburgh so we're all sitting at the Hard Rock Cafe. We have a group of 35 people for something, a good sized group. And a couple of the members were like, hey, everybody should go around and introduce themselves. And I totally realized that this is you have to be there to appreciate it story, but I'm going to tell it anyways. So then Hooch, stands up and, hey, I'm Hooch. I'm from Canada. And then, there's kind of a pause and he goes, sorry, but he says it only as Canadians can. And everybody laughed. And I'll never forget that. Cause that was, do you remember that one, Ches? That was good, right?
That was really good. He played right into it and everybody knew who he was. So yeah, it was perfect.
You need to be there. So I guess that's a good little plug for, hey, we're going to be doing another meetup here in yeah, this will air by the time in October. We're going to do one in Nashville. So we're doing our next meet and greet. So if you want to come hang out, then, October in Nashville will be the next one. So, but Hooch, thank you for hanging out. And I told them both before I got started, I have a talking point, but after that, I don't know where we're going to go. They don't even know what this talking point is. But I do want to, I guess this is kind of the first thing to talk about, but one of the pros of the market. And if for those of you that are longtime listeners, you very well could accuse us all of, talking about things that you've heard about in other episodes time and time again. And I want to get, just chime in here, but isn't that a nice thing about the market is once you kind of learn certain principles, once you learn certain rules, it is what it is. There's really not new stuff you can talk about. Whereas, for example, if this was like a medical podcast, there would always be new stuff we can talk about because there's always new discoveries, always new, findings and studies. But with trading, because it's just human emotion at the end of the day, humans are humans, emotions are emotions. So point here being is, yeah, some of this stuff might be repetitive. Some of this stuff maybe you've heard about before, but there's only so much we can talk about. And isn't that a nice thing, Ches? Would you say? I mean, once you kind of learn the ropes are the ropes.
I want the listeners to understand that Clay has already given up on looking for the Holy Grail. So, I'm still just like the medical field, new discoveries. I'm still blending 40 indicators together and looking for my one trade a decade. And so it is nice that there are, pretty much your own worst enemy is yourself. And it's really just a battle of emotion. And, once you're versed in technical analysis and things like that, you kind of find your groove. It is pretty much the same. By any means, I'm not saying the market remains the same. There's always periods that are changing and turmoil and war and something else. There's always something that you're going to have to be prepared for. But at the same time, it's mainly still a battle with yourself. So, yeah, that is nice.
And Hooch, I mean, you perfectly. You have your strategies. You have your rules in place. And at Chez's point, yeah, a war could break out, or yeah, this, that, or the other could happen. And that's going to change how the market reacts. But the principles, the emotions of the market, I mean, they're still the same, right, Hooch?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of knowing what strategies to use when, as far as it being, like a range bound market when, maybe there's nothing happening in the world, or if it's like a Brexit type market where, fighting the trend could kill you if you're not trading properly.
Yeah, so exactly. That's a good way to put it is it's not a matter of, oh, great, something's totally new. It's just, okay, got to know when to use certain strategies in, different circumstances. So yes, we'd all be guilty, I'm sure, if you want to sit in the comments and say, I've heard all this before. Well, give us a break. The market is nice in that way. There's only so many different concepts we can try to drive home. And the first concept that I had to bring up, and that is going to be kind of our kicking off talking point, is an exchange that Ches had. For those of you that are maybe unaware, Ches does a lot of the customer service stuff. So if you have questions and you click on the chat box or whatever, odds are you'll talk with him, potentially me, maybe IT Nate, who is the producer of the show. But Ches, you'll remember this one. This is just from last week, but I saw it and I had to chime in on it too, just because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Maybe not the best customer service aspect to take, but sometimes I just leave it up to Ches.
You own the business, so I wasn't going to say anything when you stepped in. But yeah, this is a good conversation. I already know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so this is, I'll just read through it. So somebody asks, it is uncomfortable to ask, but it is important to me. If I purchase the service for $99, so they're asking about joining the chat room for 12 months, which is $99. So if I purchase the service for $99, if I join the chat room, can I start the trade? Can I start the trade the same day? So can I start to trade the same day is what they're asking. And how much do I have to pay more to start? So Ches, in a very logical and very, wise questions, are you already educated in technical analysis and risk management? Because that's what we're all about. If you're a longtime listener, well, you already know that. If you're brand new, we like to use charts. And even if you don't use charts, trading at the end of the day is we're like in the insurance business. Insurance people are all about managing risk. And that's what we do. So he asked him, are you, educated in technical analysis and risk management? Because, well, first, we're a chat room that uses charts. So if he hates charts, then you probably wouldn't want to join our chat room. And then second, risk management, that goes everywhere. And this person's reply, no, I am just an Instagram follower. And then here comes the kicker. I don't want to lose my time for education. So
I'm already red in the face at this point, but I'm used to it. This is nothing new for me.
Yeah, but I mean, when you stop and think about it, he wants to just sign up for a $99 service. Do I hear a beeping?
I do hear beeping.
Hooch, is your house about to blow up?
No, I hope not. I don't know what that was. It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
All right,
Okay.
Nate, don't even worry about editing that out. That's fine. It is what it is. All right, so let's get back to talking about what we were. So, for you listeners, if you hear the beeping, hopefully you don't hear an explosion anytime afterwards, because that would not be good. But I realize it's super obvious here, that this person doesn't want to, use any of their time because, hey, it's time for education or time to make money and trade. But that is the cruel joke that the market does play on everyone. Is the market is fun. The market does give you the ability to sit in your underwear and make money. And because of that, it's just a trap that, don't waste your time learning. I mean, you can watch a YouTube video and you'll have it all figured out, but that's just not how it works, huh, Chez?
I mean, time is money, Clay. So, the only thing that matters to me is how long does it take to open up my brokerage account? If it takes me 3 days at one place and 5 days at another, I'm going with the one that's 3 days, even if their commissions are twice as high. And I'm going to throw my entire life savings at it because I just want to sit here in my underwear. But I do like your Instagram photos. I think they're very helpful and they're really going to teach me how to trade. Yeah.
So, I mean, Hooch, I realize, but you've been around a long time. You've seen a lot of people come and go. But, I mean, this is just... would you agree that the market is kind of a cruel area in the terms of presenting opportunities that it does? But when you take the attitude like this person is, they literally don't want to spend any time to learn because they want to get to the fun stuff. I mean, that's just cruel, isn't it?
Yeah, there's, I mean, it's just like anything else. Just like you always say, you need to be educated and learn what you're doing before you dive in. So, I mean, they're just setting themselves up for fool's gold if they do happen to make money on a big move or whatever. So it's just all about being prepared for the unexpected, and that happens, daily or hourly or every 5 minutes, depending on what time frame you're playing. So
yeah, I like the way you said that. Is they're setting themselves up for fool's gold. So Chez, why don't you define what fool's gold is for listeners? Because Hooch makes the perfect point. Is somebody like this? We're not saying that this person can't succeed right away, because they could succeed right away. But to Hooch's point, that's where fool's gold comes in. So what is fool's gold, Chez? Because we've heard this many times over the course of our, the last 74 episodes.
So if people are unaware, we've been in a bull market for many, many years at this point. And fool's gold would be defined as people who essentially just buy anything. And, overall, everything has been going up just steadily for the most part. And they think that they're now a great trader because things are going up. The great example for this is when I started quote unquote trading Bitcoin, it was at $600 and it went to $1,100. I thought I was a great trader because it just kept going up. However, what you soon come to realize is that when things don't just continually go up, you actually have to know how to trade. You actually have to know how to manage your risk. And fool's gold is essentially just you making profitable trades, but it's really much more luck than it is anything related to skill. And, where these people are really tested is when, things don't go in a straight line up and down. Things are going to zigzag all over the place. And, if you're losing a bunch more than you're making in these periods, you might have just wiped away all of the fool's gold you just had. And a general rule of thumb for me is that whatever money you make in fool's gold, you'll generally give back double. So people who strike the fool's gold, I always recommend, if you were hesitant to put it into your education before, at least you got something out of the market now that you should definitely invest, because I can almost assure that they'll give it back.
But the problem with that is, through my experience, is people that are currently experiencing fool's gold, they got it all figured out. To, the three of us that have seen many people come and go, we're sitting there just like, oh, this is not good. But you can't tell these people anything. They have, a lot of them are just flat out cocky. A lot of them think that, there's some sort of anomaly in the system where, I know a lot of people fail, but I just made it. I'm just one of those people. I have the skills that a lot of people don't have. And you can try to beat them over the head with, hey, you're playing with, but it finally takes and it really does. I think that's a good rule, Chez, in terms of whatever they've made, and then you double that to the backside in terms of what they end up losing. Because, hey, they got it all figured out, and fool's gold is very nasty in the way that it brainwashes you. I'm trying to think back though, Hooch. I'm pretty sure you had some fool's gold when you got started, didn't you?
Yeah, the first
Would you care to share again for those that maybe never listened to your interview or maybe forgot? Because fool's gold is always a good kind of reminiscing type subject.
Yeah, the first like 15 years of my quote unquote trading career was pretty much purely fool's gold. So yeah.
So you were making money that first over 15 years, or
I made a lot of money and I lost a lot of money, and a lot of that came with the .com bubble where you could just throw a dart at any company with a website and you're guaranteed to quadruple your money. So yeah, a lot of that came from that, and then also when I started getting back in to trading after taking a break for a few years, that was right around the time of the financial crisis in 2008. So again, you could buy pretty much anything, and then at that point, by like the end of 2008 or whatever it was, pretty much everything had bottomed out. So I'd made a lot of money then as well, but that was just because the entire market was hitting bottom and bouncing. So
well, I mean, you learned a good lesson, Hooch. It's just buy the dip, right? Isn't that the way the market works? You just always buy the dip. It can never go wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that's funny you say that, because today somebody, I think on a YouTube comment or something, was like, there's a stock that I did a video analysis on, and this thing's getting hammered. And the person replies in the YouTube comments, "What goes down must come up." And I replied back, just wrong.
I don't think that's how gravity works.
Yeah, I said wrong. I was like, I wish the market was that easy, but don't get us wrong. The market is pretty straightforward after you learn the proper, strategies, the proper way to approach a trade plan. It's pretty black and white, but what goes down must come up is a little too oversimplified. And O'Day, if you're listening, RIP, my friend, because do you remember O'Day, Hooch?
Oh yeah, down with the Newell ship.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Oh good, yeah, NEWL.
Yeah, it was like a Greek shipping company or something like that. It's like worst combination.
Yeah,
he was the captain of that ship too.
Oh man, I'll let one of you tell the story of O'Day, because I've already talked enough. Okay, go for it, Hooch. Tell us your perspective from an outsider. I say outsider because technically Ches is a part of the company, so he's on the payroll. But Hooch, he gains nothing monetarily from this. So his perspective here is just totally as a fellow member of. And what were you thinking, Hooch? Because I know, I know what you're doing, but from that perspective, it's like I'm sure you probably even try to chime in to help O'Day, because you usually try to at least give people hints and stuff.
Well, yeah, I did, and I was trading that ticker back then quite a lot, but I knew it was getting beaten so bad. I knew to not be greedy and just go for the dead cat bounces and not expect anything. But he was always looking for bottom. He was saying, "Oh, it can't possibly go any lower," and just I don't know whether he kept on averaging down or whether he's just bag holding his initial position, but yeah, he just basically disappeared one day, and I think that ticker now, if it even exists, well, last time I looked, anyways, it was like, pennies.
NEWLF. So it got a nice little additional letter added to it. So we got the F on that, which I'm pretty sure is for bankruptcy, and it is trading at a whopping 0006. So it isn't 0001, but when we were talking about this right now, this thing was up in the $3, $1.50 something, and now it's 0006. So just to be fair for the listeners out there, it lost like 99% of its value since O'Day was loading the boat.
And and we're not trying to kick him when he's down. The whole point of this was the market, while simple, it's not as easy as what goes down must come up, because this thing was down. What Ches, is that a pretty nasty chart? I'm not looking at it, but it was beat down.
Just a disgusting bare river of death. That's what it is.
So, yeah, I could see that a lot of charts, they get overextended. But just because a chart is overextended, or, my other favorite is, oh, well, the RSI is at this. So RSI means that this is therefore overextended. So it's a buying chance. Well, don't get me wrong. RSI can be a useful indicator, but that's just an oversimplification of it. It's just because the RSI gets overextended, don't mean you buy and then hold. Or worse yet, I think, do you remember, Ches, was O'Day, did he keep averaging down, or did he just hold the whole way down? I feel like he was averaging.
I'm not sure if he was averaging down, but I wouldn't doubt it the way he was preaching about it. I wouldn't doubt if every dip was a buying opportunity for him. Unfortunately, he wasn't looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah. And as Hooch said, one day he just did. Oh man, everybody tried to help him so much. Like, dude, there's nothing wrong with taking a loss. Like, welcome to the club. Like, you were wrong. That's fine. Nobody's going to be a perfect trader. And he just like,
the thing is, you got to survive being wrong, essentially, in this, especially when you're new. And I'm not sure if O'Day was new or how long he'd been doing it, but I think a lot of people, some people will join our chat room. And this is more for the listeners than people who are currently in the community, but they kind of are thrown for a loop when they join and we say, "Hey, you should probably stop trading with real money." And they go, "Well, what do you mean? I just joined this trading chat room." We go, "Well, if you don't know what you're doing, you really shouldn't be trading." It's just kind of unique because they go to these other places to listen to a guru for $200 a month, and they just right away they're like, "Well, buy this, and then you should sell it here or something." And we're the only place in the world that we want everyone to succeed, and we see these pitfalls happen all the time. We try to steer you away from it, but you can't say we weren't trying to help O'Day. And if you're out there, O'Day, listening, you should actually reach out to Clay because we haven't heard from you in a long time. But I'm thinking you went down with the ship, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. What was your first impressions, Hooch? Now, you got in before the chat room even existed, right, Hooch?
Into NEWL?
No, I'm into just the community. Hooch, just stop trading for 2 seconds, okay? You've already done very well today. We all know that.
Sorry.
Pause was you probably making another Lambo payment over there. So just, anyways, so no, in terms of the inner circle, when you first joined the community, I don't even think we had the chat room set up yet, did we?
No, well, the first place where I sort of joined your community was on your iHub message board. And, you had all these ideas of, creating your own chat room to get away from all the trolls and to, have a big enough membership price where people aren't just going to, pay to come and troll you. It's going to be, enough to, make sure that anyone that goes there is going to be, pretty much, serious about learning or discussing trade ideas. So, yeah.
Okay. So, man, I always forget. I mean, I always say the number 300 comes from the fact that I had no idea if anything was going to work. So I was just like, all right, first 300 lifetime membership. But then after 300, I signed up like, okay, well, I guess there's enough interest. So then that's when I changed it to $99 per year. But Hooch got in way beforehand when things were just like freaking Stone Age, like ridiculous how basic. And so he's seen the evolution of everything. So when you got in the chat room, though, it sounds like you weren't one of these people that were like, tell me when to buy, tell me when to sell. You were more so kind of expecting more so of kind of how it is now, or what was your first impressions? What were you thinking kind of going in?
Yeah, I had no expectations at all of being spoon-fed any trades, and by this point, I had I think maybe a couple of months before I joined the inner circle, I had bought robotic trading, so I was already sort of versed on the whole technical aspect of it at that point. I mean, I considered myself a technical trader since like 2008 or whatever, but it was just spotty YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like robotic trading was the first actual real structured course I took. So, but I was still trading penny stocks back then when we started the chat room. I think pretty much everyone was at that point. I think so.
It was the most popular place, yeah.
Yeah, and that was during the marijuana stock boom too, right?
I think it was just starting. Yeah.
So is that where you made your billions of dollars then?
Yeah, maybe not quite that much, but yeah.
Billions of toonies and loonies.
Yeah.
But what always cracks me up is just some of these people show up in the chat room, and was that your dog, Ches?
No, my dog has a much.
That was mine. Sorry that the doorbell just rang, so he went nuts. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, this is episode 75. We're gonna give IT Nate a little bit of a break on the editing. So Nate, don't worry about editing that either. It's fine.
You can go wakeboarding on the lake this weekend, Nate. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. What do you mean on the weekend? He's probably doing that right now. He just hits record and then leaves. And yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I still laugh at some people. You can see him show up, and then like within minutes almost, they're gone and you never see them again. It's like people, and I don't know why people get the impression like that there were some sort of, we're going to tell you where to buy, where to sell. I mean, I guess I know where they get it because that's how a lot of other people like market it. But, if you're point here being, if you're going into the market, and I like the way Hooch said it, looking to be spoon fed by somebody else, I realize that's a great marketing pitch for the person proclaiming to do the spoon feeding, because when they can get in before everybody else and then they hand out, the quote unquote pick, well, they're in a great position, and then they can, their little website that verifies their trades. Yeah, that's going to look real good when you're getting in before all the sheep do, and then push it in your direction. But that's just not how the market works. If you need to have things spoon fed to you, then there's no shame in that. My parents would need to have things spoon fed to them. That's why they go and they have a financial advisor that does all their investing for them and has them in the funds and this, that, and the other. And that's the vast majority of the population. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to be spoon fed. But one of my biggest pet peeves is hey, tell me where to buy and sell. And then, these people are going to tell their friends and families, yeah, I'm a trader now. I opened up an online broker and I'm a trader. Yeah, sure. I pay for somebody to tell me when to buy and sell. That's not trading. That's just straight up being a puppet. And we love our puppets, don't we, Chaz?
We do love our puppets. You have a great video about puppets. I'll throw that in the show notes too.
So on that note, I want to just kind of ask both Ches and Hooch a question. I'll also give my answer, just because I think we're all going to have a very similar answer. But I'll start with you, Ches. Why did you get into the markets? Like, what brought you into the markets?
So at the time that the markets had kind of almost fallen in my lap, and by fallen in my lap, I mean people were talking about Bitcoin and whatever. That's completely besides the point. What it opened my eyes to, though, was I was in a terrible job. I hated it. I hated wasting my time in this windowless box. I didn't move to California to sit in a windowless box and live in artificial light. I wanted freedom. It's as straight up as I just wanted freedom. Not only did I want financial freedom, I wanted kind of freedom to use my time as I saw fit. However, the thing I quickly realized is that if you are a day trader or somebody who wants to sit around and pike at the market all day, you really don't have as much freedom as you think, because you are tied to your desk. That's why I think as my trading journey has gone on, the longer term time frames suit me better, where I literally need to check the market pretty much twice a day. I can't deny that I have 3 monitors up with charts right now. So it's not that I've completely kind of stepped away and disconnected, but it was totally for pretty much freedom of my time and kind of freedom of financial freedom as well.
Hooch, what about you?
I started my full-time job working in IT at a bank, and all the guys that I'd work with, they were in the market. I don't want to say they were trading, but they were sort of giving each other tips based on the latest news or whatever, and buying stocks. Not really, and for any. I don't even think they looked at charts. It was basically just what they heard on the grapevine type of thing. So I had a full-time job. My rent was like stupid cheap at the place I was living at, so I had all this like excess income that I didn't know what to do with. So I figured, hey, I may as well throw it in the market and see what happens. So
now, did either of you like have illusions of like, now I want to do this so I can go like buy some sort of mansion, or so I can go buy a car? Or were you kind of intrigued in the sense of, wow, so if I can overcome this challenge that is the market, it can actually free up my time? Or were you guys looking at things as strictly like, oh, man, I can party with all these girls in a bikini on a yacht if I get into the markets? I mean, did either of you, is that the reason?
I didn't buy into the yachts and girls thing, and that's because I had already met Kelly, and that stuff didn't appeal to me. However, I will not deny that I had the visions of grandeur. I thought, in 1 year I'll be full time. This is going to be cool. I can't wait to buy a condo year 2. I can't wait for this, trading account to go from $5,000 to $500,000. It'll be easy peasy. I'm going to be, a superstar doing this. And then I quickly realized, it's quite a fight, and it's more so been the biggest fight with myself. I'm not even going to lie that, this is episode 75. In these past 75 weeks of episodes, I have probably only just now really come to the point where positions, and I finally feel like I have things in check in terms of size and risk, because I don't lose any sleep over it. And Hooch, I want to give you a ton of credit for this as well, and maybe this will be another talking point another time, but the pressure of having to make money is an absolutely awful and hard thing to kind of manage. And then at the same time, I had the cost of the wedding weighing on me as well. And all of these things coupled with my trading just was like a big snowball of pressure, and it did not help. So kind of after everything, all of that happened, I just now, after 75 weeks, and you listeners have kind of heard it all, I now feel comfortable. Like I can go to bed, and if I take losers, like it's no big deal. But it's taken a long time, and like I said, it's mainly just a fight with yourself.
Yeah, that's actually a super, super good point in terms of how did you put it, Ches? Like, if you need to make money, that's like it's just ridiculously hard, isn't it?
Right. It's when you stop putting the pressure on to perform or something. It's when it just starts to come natural is when things will start working. It's almost like when you need to remember something, you can't the moment you need it, but the minute you stop thinking about it, it comes to your mind. It's kind of almost in the same exact way.
Yeah, and Hooch definitely weigh in on this because I know, I mean, Hooch is a full-time trader, but you kind of struggled with this too. And if you need to make money, what am I getting at there is a lot of people contact us and they have the visions of, all right, I want to go into this full time. And it's like, well, hold on a second. If you need to make money in the sense of, look, I got to pay my rent, I got to feed my kids, I got to make my car insurance payment. I need money in the literal sense, not I need money because I want to go to the Bahamas this weekend, but I need money so I can keep my lights on. As Ches said, that is an extremely, extremely intense pressure that you put on yourself. And even if you are super well educated and all that sort of stuff, there is a component of psychology that makes that extremely hard. So are we saying that full-time trading is impossible? Well, not at all. I mean, we have Hooch here, full-time trader. But Hooch, I mean, how did you deal with all that? Because when you had a job and then you went full-time. So, I mean, what sorts of things and, maybe little tips and tricks did you do to kind of overcome and make that transition into being full-time trader?
Well, the big thing for me was I got, as anyone that's listened to my podcast knows, I got let go from my job, and I didn't take any education as far as making myself a better trader. I just kept on doing what I was doing, and it got to the point where I wasn't making money anymore. I had my severance pay coming in from my job, and that was I could count down the months when that's going to run out, and it was putting more pressure on me to make money, and I wasn't making money. In fact, I was probably losing more and more as that date came closer. And then somewhere during that period, I found your robotic trading course. There's because anyone that knows me, they know that I'm very frugal with my money. So my thinking was, well, why spend money on a course when I can just go to YouTube and look up videos and stuff like that. But the main turning point was when I joined the Inner Circle and started taking all the courses and the RVR course for sure. But still, I still had that emotional side of it where I would see all these bills, coming into my bank account, and I knew that, okay, well, this trade here, I just paid for my cable bill. Okay, well, this trade paid for half the mortgage, blah blah blah, and it was always sort of in the back of my mind. And that's when this is like your only, like, fortunately, my wife has a good job as a high school teacher, so it's that's a little bit of pressure off of me, but still, I want to contribute at least half of the bills, so I still have that pressure of I need to make X amount of money. And I know what that figure is in my head, and I try not to think about it, but it's always there. And I've gotten better at sort of ignoring that number, and I find that I've been doing better when I do that. And that's from reading some trading psychology books. I think it was Ches introduced the chat room to Trade Mindfully. I've actually not even finished that book, but I've read enough to know what I need to know to sort of, take my mind out of, thinking about the past, thinking about what I need to make and all that kind of thing, and just focusing on the plan. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Just move on to the next trade. There's always, anyone that knows me, I tend to overtrade if anything. So, I mean, I have to realize that if I'm finding all these opportunities, that if I do start losing on one, to just get rid of it, because there's going to be another trade 5 or 10 minutes later. So since I trade options, it doesn't take much movement to make a few bucks. So
Yeah. And
um,
oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, I was just going to say, even after taking all your courses and everything else, last fall, when like the end of August, I think it was, when the markets just collapsed, I was really struggling there, because I was used to the market being in a tight range and, trading a certain way. And sort of then I realized that, you have to be flexible with your trading style. And I was really struggling to adjust. And it even got to the point where I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I had to really take a step back and lower my trade size and just focus more on the process rather than, making X amount of dollars. And it took a few months, and I even took some days off to paper trade, but eventually got back in the swing of things. And now I'm doing better than I was before, and putting on less risk at the same time. So
Yeah. And
it's,
like, the big thing that Hooch said going way back when was, it's not like he was just like, yeah, I lost my job, I'm going to be a trader. Yeah, he said that, but he had a severance package and he had money coming in. And that still even created pressure on him because he knew when that was going to run out. But it's not like he just went cold turkey. I have zero income coming in, and I'm going to just start creating income from trading. Yes, that would be super easy for Ches and I to be like, yeah, that works. That's totally possible. We would sell a whole lot more courses if that was our sales pitch.
We would.
That's actually a great idea. You can go cold turkey, just stop your job, and then we'll teach you how to create income for yourself right now. That's just not reality. We'll definitely teach you how to trade. We'll teach you all that sort of stuff. But there's always that psychology that comes in. And if you need, going back to that word, if you need to make money to pay the light bill and the food, that you're just not going to listen to what you learn. You're going to have too much pressure. You're going to force trades. You're going to overtrade, and it's just, it's not going to be a pretty sight. So the big thing that we recommend is, whatever your expenses are, you better have at least, I think 6 months is way too less.
It's not enough.
Yeah,
I'm speaking from experience. It needs to be more than 6 months.
Yeah, I would say at least 12 months of your expenses set aside. That way you can sit there and be like, hey, you know what? I could literally go this whole month, not make a trade because there's no good setups. And you know what? I still have freaking 11 months of payments that I can
and when we say set aside, we mean set aside like you can't touch it. You can't, if you blow your account up, you can't take it from your 11 months of money. It needs to be money strictly set aside for pretty much your survival, your rent, your electric bill, all that kind of stuff. Just set it aside. It's completely separate. It has nothing to do with your trading.
Exactly. And if you're saying, well, I don't, how do I do that? Because I don't know what my expenses are. Well, you know what? Welcome to the business world. If you want to get into trading, you got to run it as a business. And part of a business is you better know your expenses. You better know your revenue. And dare I say the boring word, you better have a personal budget in place, because you're not going to know what your expenses are unless you can track them. And maybe when you hear budget, you go to, think of grandma sitting in her couch cutting coupons. But you know what? All companies have a budget, and you are now running a company if you want to get into trading seriously. And if you want to go full time, then you got to be able to set aside money. But in order to set aside that amount of money, you got to know what your budget is. And we've talked about it before. Depending on where you live, that's also going to depend on the ease or lack thereof of trading. I mean, and I've done a video on this, and if you live in Anchorage, Alaska, where who knows, they may pay you to live up there, it's going to be a little bit easier to be a trader up there when the cost of living is dirt cheap. Whereas if you're living in New York City and you want to be a full-time trader, well, guess what? You have to make so much more money compared to the person living in Anchorage, Alaska. So that's definitely something that needs to come into your thought process of, I want to be a full-time trader. I'm not saying you can't do it in New York City. I'm just saying life is a little bit harder. And I would say, Hooch, you're up in Toronto area. So, I mean, cost of living up there is probably pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's not so bad where I am. I'm far enough away from Toronto where it's not really that big of an effect. I've actually just moved about 6 months ago, even further away from Toronto, so it's that much less now. So that was another thing that was going through my mind, that back in the fall when I had my difficulties as well, because we were struggling to find a house, and then we finally found one, and started having to deal with the builder and putting a down payment down and all that kind of stuff. And just like Ches, you don't really realize how much outside stress can affect your trading and your mindset overall. And like he says also, you don't realize how much it has affected you until it's gone, and it's just like a huge weight taken off of you. And so anyways, moving that much further away from Toronto, it's now we have even lower cost of living. So that's
That was a good trade. That was a good trade on your guys' part.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Ches, you're kind of on the other end of the spectrum. I am in West Michigan, Grand Rapids area, and we're not the cheapest place to live in the country, but we're by no means New York City or Southern California. So Ches is currently, Ches has a hurdle of, he lives in Southern California. So cost of living out there a little bit different then, right, Ches?
Yeah, cost of living is definitely higher. However, the thing is that, and this does not justify it by any means, is coming from downtown Chicago, it was almost a 1-to-1 transition. It's always something I had kind of budgeted and we've always kind of expected. The nice thing about it is that Kelly, being a nurse, she actually gets paid very, very handsomely to kind of work out here specifically. But just like you're kind of saying, it does not help us at all. And we're actually in the process of moving to another state. I'm not going to name which state because it's not 100% yet, but that'll essentially reduce
Grand Rapids, Michigan. We can be doing this in person right now.
It'll actually reduce things by almost half in the sense of rent. And then the big thing is that income taxes would actually be half compared to what it is, because this state is absolutely insane. And we just kind of came to the realization that, we want to build a house, and this just isn't the state where it's even slightly conducive to do that with kind of how cost of living is. So time to move forward, and the sunshine's been great, but I got to find something that's a better blend.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit here and be like, if you live in Southern California, you can't be a trader. Ches is proving you can be a trader. I'm just saying that depending on where you live, it's either going to be more challenging or less challenging based on the cost of living. That's just basic economics. And the point of this whole discussion is a lot of people want to go full time, and that's great. But these are some things that you definitely need to consider, as you go through it. Do you have a rainy day fund? Do you have any income coming in at all? Where do you live? Where's the dirt that you live on? Dirt has a whole lot to do with day trading or just trading in general, because dirt in, Mobile, Alabama, it's not going to be quite as expensive as dirt in, beautiful Southern California or, San Diego or something like that. So, just keep those things in mind. Either of you open it up. I mean, am I missing any other things that I may be overlooking in terms of, things that need to be considered before, you would think about going full time?
I mean, I think you really just gotta, I say this every time and it sounds like such a simplified statement, but I don't think a lot of people actually hear the words that are involved in it. You need to understand your edge and kind of your process and what you're strong at before you're going full time. You can't just say, and I love and commend, and I've been down this road, and I want to be full-time, and I want all of you to be full-time as well if you want to be. But I essentially had left my job to trade full-time without fully understanding where I'm going to make my money. I knew what to do. I just didn't know what worked best for me. And you got to kind of understand, just like Clay said, is like a business plan. Write everything down. Write down how you're going to make your money. Write down what you're looking for. Write your risk. Do all of this and make it as much like a business as you can. Because if you're trying to do this full time and only treating it like a hobby, you're going to lose. It's just it's an unfortunate fact, but it's not something to be taken lightly.
Hooch, you got anything that maybe we're missing, or that from your personal experience, that people should be considering?
Just sort of to add on to what Ches said, you need to put in months of practice because of the way the market changes so much and goes through all of its different cycles of, consolidating and then spiking up or down. I mean, there's always surprises around the corner. So you really have to, you can't just, say, okay, I'm going to paper trade for a month or two and then I'll be ready, because you won't be. So it's just a matter of, like you can't just dive in, take all these courses. Okay, I finished all the courses in a month. Now I'm ready to trade. It just doesn't happen.
Oh, there we go. One of our favorite topics, Jess, the old the get out of jail free card that is education.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and what a lot of people do, and we see it all the time. And we're not, I am talking about our education. And this, again, Ches, this is probably not smart for us to say, but just because you were to take one of our courses, that doesn't mean jack squat in terms of we guarantee that you're going to be successful. But what way too many people do is they take our course or somebody else's course, and just because they buy that course, just because they buy it, they use that as the justification of, all right, I bought a course. I listened to this podcast and these guys keep saying you should invest in your education. I bought something, I invested in my education, so I'm good to keep trading. That's not how it works. Is way too many people use that as justification and just keep on trading. No, you should buy a course, go through it, and then like Hooch says, even if you're just thinking a couple of months of paper trading, that's still not going to be enough. You need to buy the course, totally stop trading, and then start to go about things in a very methodical manner. I think just Friday, saw somebody just saying, yeah, I just bought the course and I just made $50 on a trade. It's like, all right, you just bought the course. That's great. Sure, you just made money on a trade, but why are you even still trading right now? Just because you buy a course doesn't mean, so therefore I can keep trading. That's the wrong string of logic. I bought course, therefore I invested into my education. Therefore I can keep on trading because I've invested into my education. That's like the equivalent of Hooch going, getting accepted into, the Toronto School of Brain Surgery. And then he goes home and says, hey, look, I got my acceptance letter here. Now lay down. I'm going to cut open your head right now. I got my acceptance letter. Look right here.
That's
I got
exactly
accepted.
what it is.
Yeah. Let me cut open your head right now. That sounds asinine, doesn't it? How do you like that word, fellas? Pretty good, huh? I'm going to pat myself on the back. Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. That's stupid, right? But that's what everybody does. Not everybody. That's what a lot of people do is they get the acceptance letter from the, School of Brain Surgery. And then they start telling people to lay down. And when the people kind of look at them like, well, don't worry, I got accepted. I mean, don't do that. I mean, Ches, you see that pretty often, don't you? Being in the,
I see it more often, and I always do this, and I try not to go off on my tangent. But I'm telling you, it's a much bigger societal problem in the sense of, oh, you want to lose weight, buy this pill. Oh, you want to do this, buy this. And this is almost the same way as that people are conditioned to. Oh, I want to trade better, so I'll buy this. Okay, well now I should just trade better. Nobody wants to do the hard work anymore. Nobody wants to put in the time. Nobody wants to put in the effort. And this is a total generalization. I know there's a lot of people out there that will put in the time and will put in the effort. But 95% of society just wants to throw money at something and they want their problems to be solved. And that's just not how it works in this game.
And I mean, let me ask you, Hooch. So you bought robotic trading. Did you keep on trading during robotic, or did you kind of back off and paper trade? Or I think you just kept on trading, right? So you just kind of learned as you go, or what was your process there?
I did keep on trading. I think I was.
Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah,
but the thing is, Hooch he is the norm. He is the total norm. That's why Ches and I always kind of freak out when we hear a guest say, "Wait a second, you actually bought education and then didn't trade." Like, it always shocks us because
that's rare.
Hooch, that's very rare. So, anyway, sorry to cut you off, Hooch. But so you bought it, and it was still very choppy at that point in time, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, back then I was still in that state of mind where my severance is going to be running out soon. I need to make money, so I'm like, that's the last thing I was going to do is stop trading, because there's no way I was going to make any money anymore, right? I didn't think on the other side of the coin where, okay, well, if I stop trading, I'll stop losing money. So, I really can't say whether during that time period I lost or made money. I want to say I probably made money, but whether it was, how much of that was fool's gold or what have you, or just blindly taking your alerts because I thought you were some kind of guru. So who knows? But
if you could use Chez's time machine and go back, it's hard. You're in a very weird circumstance because, you're in the pressures of I need to do this full time. But would you say, though, probably people should just not use education as a get out of jail card? They should stop trading, go through the education, and go through the proper steps in terms of paper trading. I mean, would you agree that's the proper path?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was under a lot of stress at that point and wasn't making proper decisions as far as money management. I mean, going back and looking back at it now and knowing how everything worked out, it's so much easier to say, oh yeah, I should have just paper traded for a few months. But my state of mind at the time was like way different from what it is now. So it probably wouldn't have mattered what anyone in the chat room said. I would have kept on trading with real money anyways.
And Yeah, and I just noticed that as we do this podcast, Ches and Hooch are having conversations in the chat room lounge. So apparently I'm the only responsible adult here that can, well, maybe I'm the only person that can't multitask.
I was explaining what podcast CEO mode meant. I just had to make sure the members were on pace to understand that Hooch is trading while on a podcast, and he only botched one part of the podcast. So that's pretty good. One is a good number as long as he's doing good trades.
So how many? So you're in. How many contracts do you have left right now, Hooch, of Netflix?
Oh, just one.
Wow. What? How many did you buy?
2.
At what price?
$1.
$1. And then what did you sell your first one at?
$1.12.
So there's 12% there. And did you do all this while on the podcast?
Yeah, that's a second trade I've made, actually.
All right. So you've made at least 12% so far on your money as we sit here and talk around and BS like a bunch of morons. And then what's the price of Netflix now at?
Right now it's at I'm trading puts. I'm about to get stopped out here probably. It's
what's the price of the
right now?
Okay, the cost of the contracts is the $1.07.
Yeah.
So worst case, Hooch is about to make 12% on one contract and then 7% on the other contract in the time span of, I don't know, less than an hour. So yeah. And I didn't even know, besides that one pause, that part was kind of obvious, but besides that, so well done. And puts meaning he thinks that the price is going to go down of Netflix, which what do you think that we'll make this? Cause I know we got to kind of wrap things up, but what is the kind of the biggest factor that brought you into options trading? I mean, you said you used to do penny stocks. So I mean, penny stocks versus options, what just makes you probably laugh at penny stocks now and say, no, options is a lot better?
Well, I think around the time I took the options course and you, which is when you released it, I think the penny stock market had started to dry up a little bit. And I was just looking at different ways of making money, lowering my risk. I'd always known about options. I'd always known about, you can get much higher percentages out of it with, so you could put in less money up front and make so much more percent wise. But I was never able to figure it out. So now that I saw your course and knew your teaching style, I thought, hey, maybe I'll finally get them. Maybe I'll finally understand them, because a lot of the guys I worked with at the bank, they had started getting into options right before I was let go, and I was trying to tag along with them and get it figured out, but I just couldn't wrap my head around them. So,
but I mean, so would your argument probably be that the liquidity in the market is just so much better in options? Liquidity for you listeners, meaning, hey, when I want to sell, I'm able to sell, because in penny stocks, yeah, you can always buy, but when you want to sell, it's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to sell at the price you may think. But you think that would be kind of the main draw that brought you into the world of penny stocks, or in the world of options?
Yeah, exactly. Because the liquidity was drying up in options in penny stocks. And then I'm looking at all these, all the tickers that are being thrown around in the over $1 room, which I hardly ever visited at the time, and seeing, Apple and Netflix and Google and all that. I'm like, man, that's just, I can buy 1 or 2 shares of that. Anything beyond that, I'm going to be, out of my comfort zone. So I saw all the nice movement there, but I just, couldn't bring myself to buy 100 shares of Apple or Netflix, which at the time was like $800 a share or something like that. It's like, I wanted to trade them, but I couldn't, because of the price would have to go up a few dollars for me to make $50 kind of thing. So.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just looking at the Tesla 5-minute chart. Is that the other one you traded, Hooch, if I had to guess?
Yeah.
You traded Tesla calls, I would assume?
That's a beaut.
Yeah, I had calls earlier, then I got into puts.
Where'd you cover your puts at, the 50?
No, I sold my last one at that cliff that you alerted earlier. And then
you got out of your puts when it broke through the cliff?
No, I sold that was my target, and then I sold my last one when it broke through the 5-minute 8 moving average.
Oh, and when it bounced back up there?
Yeah.
Then where did you pick up the calls at? Right now we're looking at Tesla, and this thing just, yeah, you know what, guys, this is what makes me I might start crying here. But look at that 50 on the 5-minute. Is it me, or did that thing bounce right off of it?
It did. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah. All right. So that's just, Chuz, come give me a hug right now. fly here.
That's assuming if I move to Michigan, it's possible.
Yeah, that's why I do want you to move here. So whenever I get emotional like this, you're just, a drive away to come over. But so you picked up, where did you pick up the calls at then, Hooch?
Well, I don't have Tesla calls right now. I did a couple of Netflix trades. I wasn't actually watching Tesla, but yeah, that was like a Captain Obvious entry point right there, pretty much. So
yeah, we may have to go over that one in the webinar. I mean, that thing's pretty right there. So, well, I think we're basically almost at like an hour. And I think we talked about good stuff. I feel like we talked about some really good topics. Well, let's see. I mean, we talked about going full time and fool's gold and all sorts of stuff. So, and we will have Hooch back another time. I'd like to try to get up to 100 episodes, and then we'll start to go back and visit people that we've interviewed before and kind of hear about where they're at now. So we'll definitely have back Hooch. For you, Clay Trader University students, Hooch has been on the weekly webinars we do probably like 3 or 4 times. That is one of the functions of the university, is we'll bring on traders and stuff that are members, and they'll talk in detail about their trades during live webinars that we have every week. So Hooch has definitely been a part of quite a bit of that. But for those of you that want to hear more about kind of where he is right now, I guess you got a little taste of that, but we'll definitely bring him back again at some point in the future. So Hooch, thank you very much for coming. I was going to say thank you for stepping aside from your trading, but you just kept on trading and made money while you were talking to us. So I guess just thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Yeah, well, you certainly weren't going to pay me anything, so I have to make money somehow.
I have no rebuttal to that, because that is a fact. So, I guess I do have a rebuttal. Sorry. So, but besides that, I got nothing.
Good effort.
Well played. Yeah. So, and Chez, I guess thanks for hanging out, but you're supposed to be here anyway. So, I mean, either way, I guess we have no fun questions because this is not the normal. So we'll just wrap things up. So for those of you listening on the website, click that like button, click the share button, leave us comments below. We like to hear from members. Feedback is always a great thing. For those of you listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, subscribe and leave us ranking or reviews, which help out the rankings quite a bit. And really just let us know that we're not wasting our time sitting around. Actually, to me, it's not a waste of time. I had a good time, and in my mind, that's what matters. So we're having a good time. At least one of the 3 of us are making money. Chez is probably making some money on his options farming, but regardless, good time either way. And then finally, on YouTube, if you're listening to this, check out the YouTube channel. A lot of other videos besides these podcasts, and hopefully you decide to subscribe to the channel and keep up to date on all the new videos that are released. So thank you again to Hooch for hanging out. Thanks as always to Chez. We will see you back for episode 76.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.